What's up, guys? The next part of the series, number 5, is empathy. All right, so this is a quick calibration relating to empathy, and the first thing I want to talk about is body positioning. All right, a lot of foreign materials call for like jumping in front of girls or like stopping them, grabbing them, or like tapping them or something, and all of this kind of stuff. It's just gonna like raise their alarm levels, and it's a little bit too much shock and too intense for the most part when you're trying to stop girls, especially on the street. Now, in clubs, it's completely different. You can totally grab them right off the bat, and that's fine. More than fine, it's good actually. So, but just keep in mind that it's very different how you interact with touching people in Japan, especially in public, in a non-club situation. Okay, and you should never block people off. So just realizing that, you know, if a girl's back is to the wall or something, you shouldn't come and like block her in, unless she's already like on a date with you or into it or something, right? Try as much as possible to allow her to have the escape route if she desired it, and just realizing that, you know, these kinds of things are that women have sort of these prey instincts as if they were a deer or something and you are a lion, right? Another point in this is to approach from the front and with a suitable distance between. Now, if you're walking, you do want to approach next to them, but you do want to take like a step in front at least and then open them like that, because they should see you before they hear you, essentially. It helps them chill out and calm down and be more ready for the approach itself. You'll spook a lot less girls, raise their alarms less, and ultimately succeed more with them. Okay. Another thing I sometimes hear guys saying is that Japanese girls are crazy, or they're all the same, or they're soulless Disney bots. And this probably isn't really helping you, so it doesn't help to think this, and it's not even really true. The more complex you can kind of think of Japanese girls as, so the degree to which you can understand her is the degree to which you can hook up with her. All right, so it's really important to try to understand as much as possible the elusive J girl, so that you can better hook up with them. Okay. Everything she does serves a purpose to her, whether that purpose is noble or merely self-persevering. Okay. Follow the trail of why to discover that purpose or what that action does for her. All right. So again, really important. If her actions seem weird or if they seem mysterious, rather than just throwing your hands up in the air and being like, whatever, crazy Japanese girls, am I right? It helps to try to understand why they do that with a little bit more depth than you might initially realize. Now, it's not easy all the time, but realize that there always is some reason that they are acting in the way they do. It's not random, it's not wild, it's not crazy, it's not soulless, right? It's not robotic, it's not all the same or any of these other things, okay? Create the space for her to reveal herself, and a lot of times this involves, right, you're gonna have to talk you have to do 90% of the talking for the first, at least 5 minutes or so of the interaction, certainly until she hooks. And that can be hard for guys who just aren't used to talking, especially if they're not getting a ton back from the girl. They're like, why didn't she say that much or whatever? Get used to the fact that you're going to have to talk a lot at the beginning. Even if you're introverted, I was introverted, but by doing a ton of cold approach, I can now kind of talk forever. So that's one, I guess, advantage of this whole thing. But you do need to create the space for her to reveal herself. She has to feel like she can say what she wants to say, right? And at the same time, even though you're talking all the time, if you don't have pauses or ask questions of her, have moments where you're prompting her for a response, she's not going to give you one. So some guys get comfortable just talking, which is good, because if you ask too many questions at the beginning, she's just going to not answer them a lot of the time. But if you can create this space for her to reveal herself, you will be surprised, and they will come out with a lot more information than they initially did. Finally, cutting yourself open can often create that space. And what I mean here by cutting yourself open is to kind of lay yourself bare or slice open something honest and real and true about yourself, maybe a vulnerability, maybe an insecurity. And yes, I realize that this goes away from a lot of people's natural instincts when they want to hook up with girls, which is to present themselves as super cool and very suave and self-confident and everything. But you do want to have that extra modality, if you will, that extra side of you that she can see, and that realness. And sometimes if you are too cool, like she legitimately just thinks you're a really cool, high value dude, she's not going to want to share some of her realness with you necessarily. So by cutting yourself open, by being honest, authentic, straightforward, all of these things, it can help create that space for her to do the same. Okay. Next, you do want to leave her better than you found her. You want to have her best interests at heart. And I talked about this a little bit in the dad frame section, but it's really important, right? Like, you never want to be the one who's like pulling something fast over on girls, or like leaving them like they felt used or something like that. So do focus on leaving girls with positive experiences. And it shouldn't be too hard, as long as you're going out there, you're expressing yourself honestly, and you're present in the moment, spontaneous and having fun, confident and alive, right? She's going to have a great time with you. So it should take care of itself, but it's important to realize that you're not just trying to manipulate her with the sole goal of getting her into bed. It does require at least saying, right, that a word of caution about this. Beware over empathy or false empathy, so imagining she doesn't want or like something when she actually does. I also mentioned this earlier in regards to, to escalation or something. She won't always immediately be all over you with reactions and IOIs and all of that. So don't have this false empathy in your mind, which a lot of guys at the beginning or who are coming from, somewhat more egalitarian societies, or who were raised properly by their mothers, as I was, I would kind of imagine things which weren't really true about how women want me to act. And the biggest example of this sort of false empathy is like being a nice guy, or sort of the idea, the belief that you will gain access to a woman's vagina merely by being nice to her and proximal to her, right? As opposed to making your intentions clear and moving the interaction forward, right? So just by coming in under the guise of friendship is essentially like a Trojan horse mating strategy. You pretend to be her friend, you slide in until she hangs out with you, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have a penis, by the way. And then she's usually shocked and a bit betrayed because that wasn't your original intention. So that's not good, right? You want to come in pretty direct, pretty straightforward about at least not hiding your intentions, right? Okay, so now I understand that the opposite of not hiding your intentions and moving the interaction forward can seem a bit aggressive at times, but ultimately it keeps it very clear where you and her stand, and this is going to work in your favor. Finally, aizuchi. This is just the Japanese practice of sort of listening, active listening would be the word in English, but responding when people are talking. So, simple things like or naruhodo, sou nanda, wakaru, right? And if you don't speak Japanese, you can do the same thing in English. You're like, oh really? Like, oh, that's interesting. Wow, or cool, whatever. These are a little easy thing to do, but it's super important, and a lot of English speakers or people from other languages don't really understand how crucial this is in Japanese. And you'll get girls who are like, are you listening? Like, kiiteru? Right? They'll ask you if you aren't doing this. They'll ask you if you are listening. So I just want to leave this empathy point off with the fact that you really do have to attempt to understand these girls, attempt to put yourself in their shoes and try to really see what their thought processes are, and it's going to help you a lot. So you need to up your EQ, or your emotional intelligence, not just sort of the actual manifestations of execute this, take action, pull hard, right? Those are important things too, but the emotional side, the empathic side is something that you do need to have, and you do need to be aware of the fact that just the fact that you are a large man, in general, if you were to fight her, you would win. If you could overpower her relatively easily. Just realize that does play a role when you're trying to get these girls to come with you places. They're not going to want to come with a strange man who is unable to relate with them. So, and who isn't thinking about their interests as well. So keeping that in mind is very important. when gaming in Japan. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.